This is Basket Case Clubs, CBR Group's podcast where we turn basket case clubs into showcase clubs. Hello everyone and welcome back to Basket Case Clubs. I am Michael Connolly and it is my pleasure to be your host on this journey as usual of Basket Casey goodness, and I would like to welcome back my brother and partner in Basket Case Clubsy goodness.
Definitely not crime.
Steve Connolly.
Yes, good. Thank you. It's my pleasure to be hosted, as it is all of our wonderful listeners. I just spoke with our producer, Jess, who said last week was another bumper week for listeners, which is good. Good to hear that we're getting some cut through and people are listening to our wonderful podcast.
Merch. Yes, merch plug, swag.
Opportunity to show off our wonderful Basket Case Clubs mugs, from which we are actually drinking water today.
I was just thinking there's two things that I could probably enjoy more than water out of this mug right now.
Yep. But we're being good boys.
We are being good boys. So I said welcome back for a reason, because Steve's been away with more back surgery.
Well played.
You like what I did there?
I did. Yeah, I see what you did.
Looks like he's got a zipper on his back. He's had, so it's at 3 now.
Yeah.
You get a bulk discount, man.
In fact, it's probably a little late to ask the surgeon that question. How
many kids has he got? Which school are you putting them through?
Yeah. In fact, do you know, I was telling, again, we digress before we would do whatever the opposite of digressing is.
I'm going to gress.
I'm going to gress.
Yeah.
So my surgeon plays touch footy, and I only learnt this in just about to get knocked out for my most recent surgery, and I'm going to need another operation probably next year. And I said to his offsider who was telling me, I said, can you just make sure that before that next operation, he doesn't play touch footy, doesn't do a knee or something that means he can't be standing over my knocked out body to fix me. Anyway, so it was an interesting little overlap that we often experience when we're talking with people from all walks of life who have some connection to sport. Yeah. And it's a good leveler. If I played touch against him, I'd go very easy on him. Not that I'll be playing touch with my back.
Because you want to be nice.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, isn't it? Somebody who works with his hands, and it's really important that his hands are in good shape.
Very good shape. But not only that, you think you need to be able to maneuver yourself around. And Matt from our team did his knee very badly playing touch. Touch is a, very quickly stop-start.
Yeah, knees and fingers, and it's the fingers thing that gets me, because if I can't use my fingers, I can't play guitar, and I kind of like playing guitar.
Yeah.
And driving and typing and listening to Basket Case Clubs on my phone.
Good plug. And every now and then, maybe flipping the bird at somebody, I would
never do that. I'm not a bird flipper, and I'm not a honker. There's no point. If somebody cuts you off at the lights,
they've already cut you off.
They've already cut you off. They've been a dick. They know they're a dick, whether I flip them off or don't flip them off. They're still a dick. It's not going to change anything. So I don't flip them off.
All right, let's gress. Let's gress back to what we should be talking about.
Regress? So anyway, so today I'd like to talk quickly, like anything we say is going to be quick, about a topic that we are just getting into finally. And this is something that we've alluded to here and there in Basket Case Clubs, but it's really about a prediction that I made 26 years ago now. There's a funny thing about when I said this, and it was that I was standing on the stairs at Mum and Dad's place. And I don't know, look, maybe it's one of those fabricated parts of the memory, because, I did live at Mum and Dad's place for a long time and still visit there regularly. And I worked there for a long time, and that's where we were running the business from to begin with. But I stood on the stairs and I remember making a prediction about what sport was going to look like. And I said, in 50 years, this is what sport's going to look like, and painted this picture of a much more professionalized model of sport, not necessarily professional sport where all of the athletes get paid. And for the record, I've got no problem with that. I know that it's a bit of a bugbear. In some of the leasing work that we do, it sometimes comes up where why is this club getting discounted rent when they're paying all of this money to their senior players? That picture is in my mind okay if they're not paying their lease fees and they're not doing the required maintenance and they're paying senior players, then they're not meeting their legal obligations. So that's a different story, and let's have that question resolved. But I don't poo-poo the concept of paying players. I think that's fine.
As long as they're paying their way elsewhere, you're saying.
Yeah, and as long as they've got a business that works. And some of the clubs that we're seeing not doing well are ones that don't have the business that supports that.
Yes.
So for clarity, I still see a role for volunteers in sport, but it's not the everything that it is at the moment. We expect volunteers to do everything. And I've often said, pick the low-hanging fruit. When it comes to where you want to change the volunteer workforce, pick the low-hanging fruit. So for me, the day after a massive event, when the dunnies are overflowing, don't make volunteers go in there and get up to their elbows in other people's shit. I don't think that's reasonable. And it's an easy thing to outsource. And
Yes,
is
it
that
is.
honestly the
Yep.
best thing that you can be getting your volunteers to be investing their time in? I don't think so. Another one in the governance realm then is bookkeeping. And this, I've been challenged on this, and I don't think I've spoken to you about this. I've been challenged on this a few times recently where people
Okay.
said, but hang on, our treasurer is a bookkeeper or our treasurer is a retired accountant. So isn't it okay that he does that work or she does that work? And yet, okay, that's fine, but so long as everything else is happening. By everything else in this realm, I mean, it's fine to have great, neat, tidy books. That's really, really important.
Yes.
But
And a legal requirement.
and a legal requirement. Yeah. But is the future looking stuff happening? So
And all too often it's not.
and also so bookkeeping I think is tactical and
Yes.
there is a governance component to it because the books need to be kept in order and the accounting needs to be well done to go to the
And it's looking
auditor.
backwards, it's looking in the rearview mirror, as we often
And that's
say.
the thing. It's
Yep.
looking in the rearview mirror rather
Yep.
than so if you're doing great accounts and that's what the treasurer is spending their time doing,
Yep.
but not then saying what's our investment strategy looking like? Have we connected our risk appetite and our investment strategy so we know where we should be investing? What does our budget look like? And are we allocated? And then are we reporting on actuals versus budget every month? Because that's a higher level, a higher value use of volunteer time. And I'm much happier with that sort of stuff being done by the volunteer because we can outsource the work that is more tactical and doesn't necessarily require that anyone who's good at doing accounts can do accounts, but not everyone who's good at doing accounts has the passion that that person who is the volunteer treasurer of that club is has and is therefore willing to commit with their creativity and their strategic thinking mind to that organization.
And we've talked about this a lot in basket case clubs, and I think the big problem for me and what you just talked through is that we get distracted by the urgent stuff. So we've got to get our bookkeeping done before our monthly meeting, or we've got to get our financials tidied up and off to the accountant so that they can be audited or verified in time for our AGM. And all of that looking in the rearview mirror, all of that retrospective consideration of what's happened means that, with a view to getting things done on time. So those things that are urgent, like I say, distract us from the important things that are going to mean that our club is successful in the future. And that's true in money, but it's also true in lots of other areas of clubs, as we've talked through in previous podcasts. And again, empowering volunteers so that they can spend their time as wisely and as strategically as possible in our
And
experience.
on the highest value stuff.
Absolutely, is what in our experience is likely to bring them back so that they continue to volunteer and that they stick their hands up.
That's where they're
again
getting
next year.
fulfillment.
Absolutely. Whereas if you stick a bookkeeper or an accountant in front of doing the bookkeeping for the club,
that they do all day or that they've
they
done
look
for
at numbers all
entire
day.
career.
They don't want to look
Yeah.
at numbers all night as well. They're probably going to get fed up at some stage and be lost to the club in a volunteer capacity. So great opportunity for us to segue then into some of the discussion that we have been having about how we can really shake things up in the way that sporting clubs are operated and the way that sports are not necessarily administered, but certainly governed.
Yeah. So there's going to be a lot to this, and I don't want to rush through it. So I think that let's stretch.
Do we ever rush through anything?
No. But so I'd like to actually break the conversation down into a number of different components.
Yep.
So today, let's do a flyby of what we're talking about in this professionalized model of sport.
Yep.
So for me, let's begin, I think, with one of the important parts, which is overcoming the fear of change. So we'll start to paint the picture of what this can look like, but I genuinely have the same vision. I think that my prediction of 50 years down the track might have been too long, because I think that you and I should actually be leading this charge, and we should be pushing for massive change in the next 10 years, which would take us 36 years from when I stood on the stairs at mum and dad's place and made that prediction, that things will be different. There will be a lot more professionalization, and we're seeing this. So
I was just going to say, we've seen a lot in the last maybe 6 of those 26 years, the most rapid change, and COVID probably had something to do with that. The big
Yep.
disconnect from our clubs, that a lot of us who were intergenerational volunteers, people who volunteered because their parents volunteered, and their parents and their parents' parents volunteered. So there's, people who have almost literally rusted on to their club, had that break away from the club, and it was a bit of a circuit breaker for just doing things the same old way. Whether that's, as big a reason for the shift that we've seen in recent years or not, for some reason we are seeing this, and maybe it's because the writing's on the wall, that more and more volunteers are saying, well, I don't have the time to volunteer. I don't have the time to do the arcane.
I'm doing a side hustle. I'm taking a second job.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Both parents back at work early, all of those challenges associated with the rising cost of living, and people needing to be spending their time in ways that earn them money, not
Or give them connection to family, or commitment to other
Mm-hmm.
voluntary organizations, other sports, churches,
Yep.
charities, the other work, the school stuff that they're doing with kids. Yeah.
Nevertheless, I take your point that fear of change, I think, still does and will continue to plague the sporting and broader not-for-profit landscape. And particularly when you start to talk about sensitive topics like starting to pay some people some money to do some things when people have always just done it for free, that can be a real roadblock for some people.
Yeah. So where we've seen the shift, I think bookkeeping, great. And there are some other examples that we've got that haven't necessarily been done well. So we need some admin support. So we'll call it an administrator, or a secretary administrator who gets paid, but it's really a position that's built by opportunity. So you've got somebody who is looking for some work, got some availability between dropping the kids off and picking the kids up, and they're put into that position, but not managed properly. So that's taking a step in the right direction, but potentially open up massive cans. Oh, and then, well, we'll just make him or her get an ABN, and then, whoa, so we're paying them wrong.
Yep.
Or we'll just get a statement by a supplier because it's just a hobby for them. So we'll just do it as a hobby for them. Yet it's systematic, it's regular. Opening up a lot of fights down the track. Refereeing, we've seen that.
Yep.
We've now seen at least.
That's been a big shift.
Massive shift.
And we often talk about the fact that
not
that long ago, certainly when you and I were playing sport, not long ago at all,
longer
all
for
referees
me.
were volunteers.
I was a volunteer umpire in hockey when I was a kid. It was great. Loved it. I grew. Like, I did it for growth, and it made me be a better hockey player because I needed to know the game better to be an umpire. But now there's an expectation, and that is, again, reasonable. It's perfectly okay.
You can have half of your customers yelling at you.
Yeah,
you may as well get paid for it.
Yeah. And it's both halves. It's just
well,
half
yeah,
at
it
one
just
time
depends.
and half
Yeah,
at the other.
that's a good point. Yeah, everyone.
Coaching, so particularly at the top level, we're seeing technical directors or heads of coaching, coaching directors, coaching coordinators in paid roles now. Again, fine, but that's starting to filter down. We're seeing the academy models where we're having some retired, SSN netball players coming back into community and running coaching clinics and doing that as a business and a career.
Yes.
Fantastic. All of this is great. And this is exactly what I had stood on the stairs predicting 26 years ago. It will happen. It's just who's going to win and what does that transition need to look like. So that's what I would like to explore over the coming episodes, to really break it down and to start to point a spotlight on where that spotlight needs to be shone. So let's start with this resistance to change. There's been a few times where I've stood in an auditorium and said, right, who's scared of change? And everyone goes, I'm good with change. I'm good with change.
They're so scared about change, they don't even want to put their hand up to admit how scared about it they are.
But then I say, who thinks other people are scared of change? And then they go, oh yeah, I think other people are scared of change. And then they go, I say, to everyone else, you are other people. And then they get it. We are all scared of change. We just want to wrap ourselves in the warm blanket of change. When it comes to sport, there are some good reasons.
Wait, we want to wrap ourselves in the warm blanket of change. We want to wrap us
same. Thank you. Warm blanket of change. It's a cold ice bath. The ice bucket challenge of change. That's how people see it.
Sorry, yes.
Yes. I'll stop getting my turds wrangled soon. So, so people are scared of change for a number of reasons. And right off the bat, again, all of these reasons are 100% okay because we are human and we will all experience all of these reasons that we're scared of change in different things, in different parts of our life. And it's perfectly okay. But once we identify, oh, I could be scared of change because I'm worried about getting in trouble. And that comes in two phases, I think. The first phase is that I'm scared that I'll make a mistake and people will see that as a mistake. To me, in life, and speaking as a volunteer, I might say, I actually appreciate failure because you learn so much more when you stuff up than you do when everything goes well. Because when everything goes well, you go, well, aren't I good? But the universe might just have aligned perfectly for you. But when you stuff up, you've got to go, okay, so what can I learn from this so that I don't have this happen again? But in the volunteer world, I've seen people talk to each other in board meetings and committee meetings in ways that I wouldn't have ever spoken about like that to an older or younger brother. Like, let alone people that are passionate and committed like I. Like, it's disgusting. And they're then scared that if they make a mistake, they'll be hammered because of an honest mistake. And so they're scared of that. The other part of it, though, especially in a rising environment of child protection and what's it okay to say to be politically correct when we're talking equity, diversity, and inclusion. And so I'm now scared about potentially legal repercussions coming back and biting me in the ass as well. Perfectly natural, and it's okay. There's another one that's a bit more concerning and will probably exist below the surface a bit more, which is a fear of being shown up. So I've been doing something for a long time, maybe even as a volunteer, as you say, now some paid young upstart's going to come here and make me look bad. So consciously or subconsciously, I hold that. And we've seen this in large bureaucratic organizations, and I won't say any names or even types. We see people who are potentially rising stars in a bureaucracy who are going to be a threat to their superiors because their superiors are sitting in cushy jobs and really enjoying being retired on active duty.
One of our staff was told, don't shine bright because bright stars fizzle out.
Oh, no, they get.
Yeah, that's right.
That's what they get. So that's a real reason, but that then leads to another one, which is and maybe at that upper level, that if I take on change, it's going to mean more work. And I'm really comfortable with the amount of work that we've got going on at the moment. So please don't make me do any more. And that's then linked to another one, which is, well, I'm only here for a short amount of time. So Susie's
I've only got so much time to give while I'm here as well. The reinvention of the wheel on my watch is going to take more than I've got.
I know that the systems might be crappy. I know that there's a better way than using an Excel spreadsheet for managing a database because there are now online systems that allow the customer to do their own data entry. But I don't know how long it's going to take to set up. I know how long this takes. And I'm only here until Susie turns 11 and then it gets competitive and she's going to go and do other sports then. So that short-term thinking just while I'm here is also going to hold us back.
I think this comes back to the fear of getting in trouble or fear of getting reprimanded. Because when I think of getting in trouble, I think of someone who's got the authority to get someone in trouble, whereas often it's not necessarily someone who's got the authority to get a volunteer in trouble. It's just someone who thinks they do, or they're an absolute asshat. But I think
there's no asshats in the world of volunteer sports, Steve.
But the other thing that I think often plagues management committee members and holds them back from making bold change in their club is that they don't want to be the one to screw it up. And again, this is perfectly understandable, this mindset, but things have been ticking along okay. This club's been here for 50, 100 years and it hasn't gone under yet, I don't want to be the one to drive or agree to even this change for fear that it all falls apart on my watch, and then I'm held accountable by others for that.
Like the whole program or the whole club.
Yep.
Just,
Yep.
yeah.
Or at least that might be something that people hide behind and say that that's, the reason. But and it's realistically, it's quite likely that it's a bit of a mix of a lot of these factors that actually holds people back in clubs from making meaningful change. And change management is a big thing. Change management is such a big thing that it's a freaking job that people have. It's a career title. It's a thing that consultants do. It's a thing that people in large organizations do. And that alone, I think, is a really good hint at how challenging it is to make effective change and to achieve meaningful outcomes from that change. So much so that it can be easy to just say, screw it, I'm not going to do anything.
You know what? I've met some young change management professionals.
Yes.
They don't look young. None of them look young. They've either ripped all of their hair out or it's all grey. And they're going, oh, just come on the journey. It's hard.
Yeah.
And look, the final one for me, and we'll let's come back to that because there's a lot in that about risk management and how clubs, I don't think, have a good understanding of risk management because they've never defined their risk appetite.
Yes.
How much risk are we willing to take? And so then we'll just default to taking none.
Yep.
And I don't want to take any risks because I don't want to be left holding the baby if this all turns to custard.
Yep.
But the final one that kind of sums everything up is the devil we know syndrome. We know what this takes.
Yes.
We know it's going to take a bit of effort to do the change. Now, to do the change might be anything, and we'll explore some of this. It might be anything from just adopting a new system to changing part of our business structure so we can make more money from a diverse revenue stream that then we can invest in people so that we've got money coming in to be able to pay. But clarity on roles and now I'm stuttering because I'm thinking when we do that, we say, well, let's put somebody on as a grant writer, but they've got to pay their way. Hang on, what does that mean? Well, they've got to write enough grants that pays their wage, and then we also get grants to build the things. Grants aren't going to pay wages for a grant writer within your club. Oh, well, okay, no, that's fine. Yeah, I appreciate that. So then, well, let's let them get sponsorship. Okay, so how are you going to manage their KPIs? Well, obviously, they've got to make enough money through getting sponsorship to pay their own wages, then they can write grants. So where do you think they're going to be spending their time? And how is that helping the club? Now, sponsorship is critical, and I think everyone screws sponsorship up, and we've been there and we'll go there again. But it's about when we bring that back, we say, I know what the system looks like today. I know what the time commitment looks like today. Bringing it all together, I'm only here until Susie, so for the next 3 or 4 years, I've got a short-term time horizon. I don't want to make a mistake. I don't want to get into legal trouble. I don't want anyone to come in and make me look like a doofus for doing it wrong when somebody else could have done it better. So you know what? I'm just not going to say anything. So we've got so many creative ideas potentially just dying on the vine.
Yeah.
Because people are scared one way or another of change.
Yep.
Or changing. Yeah, the change itself or the process of changing. So there's going to be a lot more of this conversation that we're going to be able to have. And that's exactly the point that I've started to talk about more openly, is that I don't have all of the answers. I've got some of the questions. We collectively as an industry need to start having this conversation. And if the little article that I put on LinkedIn yesterday is anything to go by, it is time to have this conversation. And it's going to take a little bit of boldness, tenacity to actually have the balls to say what we're doing worked 60 years ago. There are so many elements of the federated model that it's time to rethink. And if we just continue to let evolution of grassroots sporting clubs take its course, evolution is random mutations. We don't want random mutations. We want directed change. So if we can direct the evolution, then we can determine what is the end point. It's sustainability and viability of sport so that kids in generations to come can still get out onto the paddock, into the pool, onto the track and play sport competitively and socially for all of the health and mental health benefits that we know that it gives, without that
Yep.
being relying on the dwindling number of volunteers who have, some of them are just fed up, some of them have cracked the shits.
Yep.
And in my opinion, we as an industry have been asking volunteers to do some things that I don't think it's okay to be asking volunteers to do. Not 60 years ago, and certainly not today.
Yeah.
So don't be up to your elbows in somebody else's shit. Don't be wasting time. Value your time as a volunteer where it needs to be, at a really elevated level, so that you can say, we can actually outsource a lot of this stuff. We as a consulting firm have had so many challenges with people saying, oh no, well, we don't want to outsource that because we'll do it ourselves. Hang on a minute. To your point, we joined this club. Sorry, didn't you guys join this club to play golf?
Yeah.
Not sit in here and write a constitution. There are experts, hello, who do that. Let the experts do that while you go out and play golf, because that's why you joined.
And so often they don't
Sorry,
go
I'll
and play.
step off my high horse. So this is going to be an interesting conversation that we shall continue from now. Steve, thank you very much for joining me on this little roller coaster. I'll have to get Jess to tell me how many times I got on my high horse and got passionate this time. It's, I don't know, probably the same as normal.
I feel like we're on the high horse for entire episodes and we only get off when we stop recording.
You remember, what was it, one of the Avengers movies or something, when
I have no idea
the
where this is
Incredible
going.
Hulk, what's his name? Bruce Banner. Where, you know, so how do you, because when you get angry, you then turn into the Hulk, and he
Yes.
goes, I'll let you in on a little secret. I'm always angry.
Yeah.
So I'm always on my high horse, but especially about this stuff, because this is where there's massive upside and massive potential. And how much are we holding back the ability for our sporting industry that is so integral to the Australian culture? How much are we holding that back? Because our grassroots sporting structure has not changed enough in decades.
And what are we not tapping into? Almost $19 billion worth of value that the sporting industry in Australia delivers each year. And we're not sharing in enough of that pie, in my opinion, as community grassroots delivered sport.
Definitely. Yeah. So if you're not already connected to us on social media and subscribed to our newsletter,
You've got no chance of getting merch.
you got no chance of getting merch, but worse. And do I say like and subscribe, you know, smash that subscribe button, like it, all of that. If you're not, but at least connected to us on our newsletter and for our newsletter and on socials, then Santa Claus is not going to bring you any goodies at Christmas time. Do you really want that? No, you don't. So make sure that you do. Plus, as Steve said, you can win some fantastic swag.
Tasty water.
Thank you, Steve. Again, welcome back. Good
Thank
to see
you.
you up and about. And thank you, of course, to Jess for making us sound and look fantastic. Because we do, and we are. And to you, good luck, and please take part in the conversation. If this has triggered anything for you, send us a message, because I'd be very interested to see what you think. Good and bad, because if we aren't on the right track, we need to be on the right track. So if there's anything you disagree with, let us know as well. Looking forward to it.
I agree, and I've just thought when you were saying that this is a great topic that we're probably going to be well advised to loop some external people into. People who've been through the journey of big change. Let's get them in and get their thoughts.
Good idea. Thanks, everyone. See you next time.
See you next time. I'll be back.
Basket Case Clubs acknowledges the traditional custodians of the country on which we record, being Yugambeh, Turrbal, Jagera and Kabi Kabi land. We recognise their enduring connection to land, waters and culture, and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to First Nations listeners.